Did you say you had lunch with Warren Buffett?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing, Zach?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. You know, we just had a with the banking industry, it's like we're putting out a lot of fires
Sure.
because of like, customer requests, trying to get them more limits. So today was another busy day for us, but hey, I have a job and I'm able to work from home, so I consider
Can't
myself
complain
blessed.
about those two things, right?
Oh yeah, definitely not. But so let me start off with introducing,
Yeah.
you. Um, so hey guys, I'm excited to have Zack Friedman on. Just to let you know a little bit about the person I'm about to interview. He's the founder and CEO of Make Lemonade, a leading personal finance company that empowers you to live a better financial life. Has inspired millions through his powerful insights, including more than 14 million who've read his advice on Forbes. Previously, he was the chief financial officer of an international energy company and hedge fund investor, worked for Blackstone, Morgan Stanley, and the White House. Zach has degrees at Harvard, Wharton, Columbia, John Hopkins. Just saying that I almost lost my breath. And you live in New York with your wife and children. So let me start there. How's your family doing in New York? It just seems like the epicenter of everything that's going on.
Thanks for asking, Manny. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. Everyone is doing well, thank God. It's definitely a tough time out there. A lot of people are hurting financially. A lot of people have lost loved ones. They know people who've been impacted by this. It's millions and millions of people in our country, here in New York and around the world. So my heart goes out to everybody. I hope you and your family are well. And, we're sending prayers out to everybody,
No.
make sure everyone gets through this and comes out stronger on the other side.
Yes, yes. So it's different, obviously, for everybody. Me and my wife, we've been good. Both of us are blessed to be able to work from home, and I own a multifamily property, and all my tenants, the same. That they're able to continue working. So with that, it's just it's just a blessing, and I'm happy for that, right? But
Absolutely.
with that, because of everything going on, what brought me to contact you was your article, your Forbes article. No, there's not a 2,000 a month stimulus check. This title made me sad, right? But then
Sorry
I
to
read, I read the full article, and then it gave me like a little hope, because I know there's a lot more people out there that are that don't have jobs, that are gig workers, right? Like the new economy, gig workers, or just the amount, or business owners, so they make their own money. So what can you say? It seems like from your article, you have good insight of what's going on, with this stimulus. What can you say about it?
Yeah, well, certainly there's the stimulus package that has passed, and
Yes.
it's called the CARES Act, and essentially it's financial hardship to help millions and millions of Americans to receive a one-time stimulus check. There's different requirements. You can read the details in my Forbes column online, but essentially, folks who are earning $75,000 as an individual tax filer, or up to $150,000 as a joint or married filer, they'll receive the full amount of the stimulus check. This is a one-time payment, up to $1,200 for an individual and up to $2,400 for a married or a joint filer. After those levels, there'll start to be a ratchet down. So it essentially phases out. So you won't get the full amount if you earn above that amount. It goes down by $5 for every additional $100 in adjusted gross income that you earned. And we're talking about your most recent tax filing. So 2018 or 2019, if you filed, not your current income. This is what you would have filed on your tax return. And the maximum is up to $99,000 for an individual, or $198,000 for a married or a joint filer. There are also people who will receive automatic payments. So if you get Social Security or disability or veterans benefits. So automatically get a paycheck. You don't have to file taxes. Also, folks who earn, are not required to file taxes because they earn a low income, for example, they do not have to file taxes. They can still receive this. What you'll want to do is basically, if you fall in that categories, you can go up to the IRS website, and there's a section called non-filers, and you can enter your information there, including your direct deposit if you have a bank account and you want to receive your paycheck, or excuse me, your stimulus payment there. You can do that as well. So that's essentially what's happening, is a $1,200 paycheck. There's been a lot of rumors about a $2,000 a month paycheck. That doesn't exist yet. There is a proposal in Congress that's come out from 2 Democrats to essentially offer $2,000 a month for 6 months. But at this point, yeah, I know, thumbs up, right? Everybody likes to hear that. But right now, that's just a proposal, and we'll have to see as it makes its way through Congress. But it's very similar to what Andrew Yang had proposed. He had proposed $1,000 a month in the presidential campaign, essentially UBI, or Universal Basic Income, and that would be some aspect of it, right? It'd be $12,000 total for 6 months, and it could go even longer than that. They basically are talking about people getting their jobs back and what the employment ratio looks like. So that was kind of the criteria there. So it was at least 6 months, could go longer. But again, there's no guarantee that will happen. It has to go through Congress, and there's other priorities that you may not feel that's there are other priorities besides that. People want stimulus. They want to be able to support themselves financially, particularly when you have 20 million people plus out of work right now. But there are other priorities that Congress is looking at, and they're the ones who make the determinations on where that goes and negotiating with the White House and so forth.
Okay, perfect. So is that proposal to give most Americans, let's say most, and from what I read, they said from the age of 16 up, right? $2,000 a month for 6 months. Obviously, that's a starting point, negotiation between the, Republicans and the Democrats. But is that something that you think is gaining traction? Or a lot of times I know politicians, just to get their name out there or people writing about them, they blurt out a proposal. Or is this something that's actually on the floor and they're talking about?
No, it's very preliminary, and as I said before, there are other priorities, not necessarily what I think or what you think, but Congress, the White House has other priorities. For example, infrastructure has been a big issue that's come out, food aid, hazard pay for frontline workers who are risking their lives, healthcare workers, folks in grocery stores, pharmacies, banks, et cetera, who are putting themselves at risk on the front lines. So there are a lot of different areas that are being talked about. There could be a second stimulus check, whether that comes in the next stimulus package. There was one just passed yesterday in the House of Representatives for the Paycheck Protection Program that will help with payroll costs, helping small businesses. So that was the next form of stimulus that came out. There likely will be another stimulus package, but it's all up to negotiation. And if there is another stimulus check, right now, most likely it would be a one-time payment. Again, there's no guarantees there will be one, but if there is one, it's probably a one-time payment, similar to the one that's going out right now. The question of timing, or if it becomes a monthly payment, I think it's too soon to say that, because maybe about 80 million people in this country have received a stimulus check through direct deposit, but there's still about another 100 million that haven't, and those are going to be distributed over the next weeks and months. So, jumping to the next one is needed by many people, but it's a little preliminary to say what that looks like at this point.
Okay, yeah. So a few more people joined on, so I just want to just recap.
Sure.
We're talking to Zack Friedman, and it's an honor to have him on. He's a senior contributor with Forbes. Had over 14 million people read his articles and take his advice. And he has degrees from Harvard, Wharton, Columbia, Johns Hopkins. He has an amazing book that we're going to talk about soon. And the reason why we're talking about the stimulus package, one of the articles he wrote for Forbes was, the title breaks my heart. No, there's not a $2,000 a month stimulus check. But if you're out there and you're on this live and you would love to receive $2,000 for 6 months, put some thumbs up, right? And call whoever represents you in Congress and let them know this is something that you want them to push. Now give some, some pressure. So with that said, you wrote a lot of articles, like, you know, some great articles. I see some of your articles have almost like 5 million views, like people reading it, right? But one of the things I noticed that you really focus on is student loans. And I noticed you have from Trump calling for the end of student loan forgiveness and everyone, you know, gets mad, to then him flipping, and then he waived student loans interest and payments until September 30th, which I was very happy and grateful for, right? So I'm confident from all the articles you wrote, confident that you're very knowledgeable in this space and probably have some insight. So there's a lot of misnomers and, you know, a lot of misinformation out there. So what can you say about this student loan like program that they have out there for federal loans? Let me put out there, this is just for federal loans. So this is something that what I'm talking about, you should call, you know, whoever's holding your loans to check this. I don't want anyone saying Emmanuel I told them that you don't have to pay your loans, right? But what insight can you put? Like, is there any information that you're noticing the masses is overlooking, or something that they're playing up too much just for clickbait?
Yeah, so right now, this is an excellent point, Manny. You know, student loans are a $1.6 trillion issue in this country, right? We all know people who have student loans, whether it's private loans, you know, federal loans, and they can be incredibly expensive, right? The cost of higher education is astronomical in this country. And so right now, starting on March 13th, so it's actually backdated all the way through September 30th. If you have a federal student loan that's owned by the government, so that's a Stafford loan, a direct loan, and if you're not sure what kind of loans you have, call up your student loan servicer. That's the company rather, who you pay your student loans to. So, you know, it's companies like Navient or Nelnet, Great Lakes, Fed Loan Servicing, etc. If you call up and just verify that you have that, you can also go to your Fed Student Aid website as well. Basically, you have a reprieve, you have a pause that you can do on your federal student loans. So a couple things have happened. You are not required to make federal student loan payments from now until September 30th, 2020. Okay, it's a 6-month period. It started back in March. The interest rates have been set to 0, so there's no interest accruing during this time period. So if you don't make the loans, your balance is not going to rise during the time period. Okay, and then finally, if you've defaulted on your federal student loans during this period, your wages, your tax refund, your Social Security payments, none of that can be garnished in order to pay on your student loan debt, your federal student loan debt. So totally separate as private student loans, but for federal debt, you do have these protections during the 6 months. So if you want, you can use, you know, your money for your living expenses, to pay other costs you have, to pay your rent, etc. So think about that. A lot of people are taking advantage of that right now. On the flip side, if you say, hey, you know, I have some extra money, I still have my job, I'm very grateful where I am, you can pay your federal loans during this time. It's actually, if you have extra money, no matter how much, $5, $10, $100, $1,000, this is a great time to actually pay your federal student loans, because the interest rate is 0. So any money you can put forward now, you know, it's going to go directly to pay down your principal, and that's going to help you pay off your loans faster. So definitely take a pause if you need it, as millions of people do. If you have any extra money whatsoever, this is a smart time to help pay off your student loans faster.
All right, perfect. So this is something that I personally, right, that I told my wife agreed, and we're doing, and I want your honest opinion if it makes sense. So what I'm doing is, I want to do exactly what you said. Take this time to pay down as much, since it's interest free, but also in the environment, not understanding how long this is going to go for, the money that I would have put, and this takes discipline for anyone that's listening. Me and my wife are taking the money and extra and putting it onto an online savings account, just in case of emergency we need it. And then September, I think my wife is good with this. We wrote down, reminder, September 25th, if everything's going good, we're going to transfer that money over and make one large sum payments on our loans. Does that make sense to you?
Love it. Love it. Love to hear that, man. That's
okay,
great.
Perfect.
That's great. Absolutely. And you brought up a great point. Look, you know, everyone's situation is unique, right? Everybody has their own piggy bank, and money they owe, money they have, money they're getting, and they have a job. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they've been furloughed. So, individual advice is important here. I think for you, Manny, that makes sense given your situation. I think for other people, there may be other forms of debt you might want to pay off first. For example, if you have credit card debt tends to be at higher interest rate than student loan debt. So, now that you have federal student loans at 0% and you only have limited resources, you may want to pay that higher debt first, like credit cards, for example, right? It might be a higher interest rate than your student loans. But yes, what you said makes perfect sense. And everyone should try to have an emergency fund. I know it's a tough time right now. Again, resources are limited, but if you have the extra resources, no matter what you can put in that account, this is a good reminder that the economy can change very, very quickly. And so having a separate account, a high yield savings account is a great idea. Don't commingle it with your existing bank account, because you really want it to be emergency savings. Like, it's like you see those signs, don't break the glass in case of emergency. Do not dip in that account unless you need it. So think about it. If you lose your job, you have, an emergency bill, something goes wrong at your house, you need to fix it. That's where you want your emergency money. And ideally you would save 6 to 9 months of expenses. And that's easier said than done. It will take you some time to do that. But if you can save 6 to 9 months of expenses or even longer, put it in a separate account for a rainy day, that's going to really help. Again, not easy to do in this environment, but it's something you can work towards in addition to paying down your debt. Total smart financial move.
All right. So we do have one question from one of my coworkers, Elda. But before Elda,
Hi, Elda. How you doing?
And when it comes to finances, she motivates me. She pushes me. She drives me. And this is one of those things. 9 to 5. She's always asking me, "Are you paying down this?" So I definitely want to put that out there. Thank you, Elda.
Yeah, bring her on.
Yeah. So one of the so before I get to her question, so what you were saying is, so with something I talk about a lot is about saving for a down payment for a home, right? And what I have done when I was looking to buy my home and looking to buy another home, I have the money. I didn't really have like a large sum. My job wasn't paying me that well. So what I was doing was, my job allowed me to have a Roth 401k. So I was putting extra payments into the Roth 401k because they told me I could take it out, the money I put in, not the interest, penalty free. So is that a way you would recommend, or is that too risky, a way of saving for emergency?
So, I like to keep a 401k or a Roth 401k or a Roth IRA. For anyone who doesn't know those terms, they're basically retirement accounts that you might have either through your employer, like a 401k, or you might have an IRA outside of your employer. I really like to think of those accounts as really for your retirement. So I know there's a lot of flexibility that some of them have where you can make withdrawals. Like a Roth IRA is after taxes, so you can take out what you brought in with no penalties sometimes. There's certainly some reprieves that are going on now. But usually if you withdraw from an IRA, you do have to pay a penalty and also some taxes if it's a traditional IRA. But generally, I don't like to recommend that. I would really try to keep it in your IRA accounts, your Roth IRA, because of the power of compounding interest. So if you put in money when you're 20, 30, 40 years old, it's going to grow, assuming the stock market does consistent returns, even though it's struggling right now. You're going to have a lot of money when you retire, no matter how much you can put in, because it's just going to grow based on compound interest. So I think it's better to actually leave your money in there. I think if you're going to take a traditional path, that's the best way to go, rather than putting in money and then withdrawing it. I mean, certainly if you need it, absolutely, right? If you need money and you have it somewhere, you're going to use it. But to the extent you can leave it in your account and let it grow through that compound interest, that's going to be, in my opinion, a smarter move than putting money in and then taking money out.
Taking it out. Okay, makes sense.
In a perfect world, yeah.
All right, perfect. So, and I'm going to get to Elder's question, but Andy just had a question, and he said, do you have any recommendations of online accounts? I know there's a lot of them. Sure. I know I've used Symphony Bank, American Express. Is there any, do you think just if you find one with good interest rates and it's backed by the FDC and it's online, that's good? Basically, that's a safe way.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. As you said it, any reputable name, you can look for a high yield savings account online, make sure it has the customer service you want. And as long as it's paying an interest rate that you're comfortable with and it's reputable, absolutely. It's a great way to grow your money. I mean, interest rates, I would say, are very low right now, just given the economic environment, but those can rise and fall over time based on interest rates and what the Federal Reserve does. But it is a good place to keep your money. And a lot of online savings accounts have higher interest rates than just leaving it at your local bank. So it is something that's smart to do in addition to, investing in the stock market, for example, but it is a safer way to do that. Sure.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
So to Elda's question.
Yes.
So her question was, how would this situation change our economy? What would be the best and worst case scenarios in your opinion?
Are you talking about the pandemic right now?
Yes.
Yeah. So look, it's obviously had a huge impact on people's jobs. I mean, just talking from an economic perspective, I mean, the health perspective, I think is obvious. I mean, we've had, tragedy, people losing their lives, people getting sick, losing loved ones. I know certain people who've lost family members and friends, and people have been in hospital. So there's the huge health impact. From an economic standpoint, we've had over 20 million people apply for unemployment. We've seen some of the worst employment numbers that we've had since the Great Depression, almost 100 years ago. So from a job loss perspective, it's been pretty grave. Obviously, certain industries have been decimated, everything from the travel industry, including airlines, hotels, cruises. We've seen, large gatherings, whether it's a movie theater or a concert, that have been impacted. The malls, retail stores, anywhere where you have people going out in public, casinos in Las Vegas, the hotel industry. So it really runs the gamut, and so many other small businesses like restaurants have been impacted. So, there's been a big domino effect that's happened. And that's obviously sent, the price of oil down substantially because people are not using, gas to drive as many places, or planes using fuel, or cruise lines using fuel also. So there's been a big impact to every single part of the economy. And it's hurt for a lot of people. So, when you look at kind of the upside and downside, I mean, we've seen a lot of the downside. Could it get worse? Yeah, it could get worse. Hopefully it won't get much worse, but it can. And it really depends how long this pandemic goes on for, and whether we're able to get back on our feet. A lot of that is the science more than the hope, right? And so, leaving in the hands of doctors and scientists and experts who understand how the coronavirus works. There's a possibility that it comes back in the future, right? It's been talked about pretty widely on the news. It could come back in the fall, for example, or come back during the next flu season. We likely won't have a vaccine. It could change, obviously, but given FDA regulations and testing and clinical trials, we may be over a year away, year and a half away from a vaccine. So, it's hard to say when folks can get back to work. People who've been furloughed, people who've been let go from their job, will they be rehired? Those are all questions that haven't been answered yet. Hopefully they will be. Hopefully we'll be able to open back up in some capacity, but when that will be, whether it'll happen in a few months or later in the fall or next year. I mean, depending how you think about this, it really could go on for a while. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's essentially how I think about it now. There's obviously the upside case that things open up a lot sooner, but you still have kind of those health considerations that people are talking about. And what does that mean for restaurants, right? What does it mean for taking an airplane? Even if things open back up, as a consumer, as an individual, Manny, do you want to go on an airplane and sit next to someone? Do you want to go to a restaurant that has, 100 people in it? Those are all choices consumers have to make. The stock market, for example, has been doing a lot better than what the economy says, right? So what does that say about the stock market? It's fallen from 30,000 points on the Dow to, around 24, 23,000. But a lot of people think it should be a lot lower, just given it's performed not as bad as the people who've lost their jobs and their livelihood. And so we really have to see how this plays out. We're a few months in. The question will be, how much longer does it last? And it could last longer. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's definitely a tough time for a lot of folks out there.
Yeah. There's a show on, I think, Netflix. It's called, I think it's about Madam C.J. Walker. She was the first black self-made millionaire. And she, from the time when she was washing clothes, it all started during the, I think, the Spanish flu. Mm-hmm. And my last interview, the person said that if you're smart enough to identify a problem, you could be smart enough to find a solution.
Yes.
And if you're not, you could pay someone to find that to start a business. So I believe, like the Chinese proverb says, in chaos there's always opportunity. So
absolutely.
And I think this is a great way to lead into your book, because your book, I didn't have the time, as I told you, to like read it, but me and my wife wants to dive into it. But I was doing my research, and it just is very inspiring. And let me know if I pronounce this right. Ikigai, right? A process of discovery, finding your purpose, like just looking at answering those questions, like what you love, what are you good at, what can you be paid for, what the world needs. Those questions is just like, man, like I really was like, whoa, let me, answer this. And your book really, from what I see so far, really knocks this on the head. And I guess this is the right time to read it. With everything going on, this is the right time just to, calm your nerves, find your purpose, and move forward, right? What inspired you to write this book, the Lemonade Life? And for everyone out there watching, I pinned my wife's comment. That's his website. So if you want information about this book, ordering whatever you want, you could go directly to his website. It's the Lemonade Life. But I'm going to stop talking and let you just, what inspired you to write this book?
That's a great question. And Lemonade Life has been a bestseller. And I'm very grateful to everyone who's had a chance to read it all around the world, and also listen to the audiobook, which I narrate. And it's available everywhere. You can certainly go to lemonadelifebook.com, but you can also grab it everywhere books are sold, from Amazon, Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, or your local booksellers, or Audible, or Apple, everywhere you would listen to books or buy books. So I really was motivated by a lot of things. And, you brought up a perfect example, which is purpose. And, I had lunch with Warren Buffett. And that's
wait. Yeah. You just said that like offhand. Wait, did you say you had a lunch with Warren Buffett?
I did. I was very fortunate with a group of folks to go out to meet Warren Buffett out to Omaha. And the Lemonade Life actually opens with our lunch. That's how the book starts. And I won't give away too much, but Warren Buffett was definitely one of the motivations for me to write the Lemonade Life, because when we met and you have a chance to meet Warren Buffett, you think you talk about, what you talk with Warren Buffett about, right? You'd ask him questions about the economy and investing and business and what's all this sage advice he can offer. And he did a lot of that day when we spent the day with him. But he also started talking about happiness and your life purpose and the work that you do and what really motivates you in life. And I think, all of us who are coming up and we're trying to make our way in the world, we start thinking about success and, how can we get ahead, right? What's the hustle? What's the grind? How do we break through, and how do we find that happiness? But I think people tend to focus, on like material wealth, and they're focusing on just like getting through things, when they're not really taking a step back and thinking about themselves, or thinking about being self-aware, finding happiness, doing something they love for a living, right? And so that ikigai concept, which is a Japanese word, and it basically is about well-being and thinking about, it's leading life on your terms with purpose and possibility. And what I mean by that is, purpose is the underlying reason why you do what you do. It's the reason you get up every single morning. And a lot of us hear this term purpose, but we don't really take the time to think about it. Like, literally, why do you get up every single morning? Not because the alarm clock goes off, not because you have to go to work, but like, what are you actually working on every single day to better yourself, right? Why are you living this life? Like, what are you actually going after, right? It could be you're doing it for your family, for your wife, for your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, someone significant in your life. You're doing it to create impact for people. You're doing it to change someone else's life, better at customer service, trying to make people's life better in some way, right? That's the purpose part. And then the other side of the coin is possibility, right? That's infinite opportunity, right? What is the infinite opportunity in your life that you can get? A lot of people say, you know what, man, like, Manny, I really can't do that because it's outside. Like, I live in a small town, or I can't get to New York City or Boston or DC or LA. Like, I can't actually do what I want to do. It's too challenging for me, right? But there's opportunity right in front of you. And And you said right now, like CJ Walker, there is opportunity in chaos. And a lot of people right now are scared and they're afraid, but this is actually one of the best times to start a business. It's contrarian. A lot of people are like, it's too risky, but some of the best ideas come out of crisis, right? And so there's opportunity around you no matter what you do, right? You don't have to work on Wall Street or Silicon Valley to make it big, right? If that's what your goal is, your goal doesn't have to do that. You can be a doctor, a nurse, a teacher, a police officer, a firefighter, and help create impact in your local community. But really think about this idea of purpose and possibility and connecting it through action. That's the Lemonade Life. And so I wrote this book really thinking about success. I think the traditional model in the Lemonade Life, like, it's different than what the traditional model is. The traditional model is, you know, you go to school, you work hard, you get good grades, you get a good job, you work for 40 years, and then you retire, right? Like, finally you get to be happy, right? And I think that's just a really bad formula, right? It's like,
yeah, I agree with that.
What happens for like the rest of your life, right? Like, where's the happiness each and every day? And I think people forget that, right? You know, I gave a TED talk on happiness at work, and we spend about 70,000 hours of our life at work. Just think about that for a second, 70,000 hours. And a lot of us spend more time with working at our job than we do actually with our family. And if you're not happy with what you do in your life, then it's just a miserable experience every day. And that's going to carry over into your daily life, right? Your personal life. And so I want to look at like a different model. So I started studying all these great leaders, from Warren Buffett, leaders in business and politics and sports, entertainment industry, right? And so I started looking at people like Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry and Steve Jobs and, you know, Warren Buffett, Sylvester Stallone. So many people are inside this book, these great stories that I tell. And I saw that they have these 5 behaviors, these 5 switches is what I call them. And they're just like light switches. And these behaviors are not just inside the really successful people. They're inside you, they're inside me. Everybody has these 5 switches. And these 5 behaviors, once we flip all of those on, just like light switches, we can move from what's called a lemon life to a lemonade life. And the whole book is about how do you flip those switches. And they're very easy to do, but a lot of people just don't connect all the dots. And when they do, they can start moving from the lemon life to the lemonade life and have a much more purpose-filled life. And that's the way that I really think about it. I see the hearts going up, which is great. So
yeah,
that's
no, that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So wait, one person had a question.
Yes.
And so they asked, what's the difference between purpose and goals?
Excellent question. I love that question. So purpose is the why in your life, right? Like, think of it as like your mission statement and what you actually want to achieve and why you're doing it. Okay. So why do you get up every morning? What makes you excited? Think about the why question. Goals are the what. What are you working towards, right? And a lot of people will have goals, whatever your goals are. They could be financial goals. It could be, I want to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I want to run a marathon, right? Those are goals that you all want to achieve. But I would argue, you know, you can train for those things, you can practice, but you won't really be able to be like your best self, right? And commit to excellence unless you understand the why in your life, right? Why are you doing these things? Why are you running a marathon? Just because you want to go outside and get some fresh air? Or are you doing this because you want to raise money for cancer, right? Or you're doing this for your grandma? Or you're doing this to prove to yourself, all the people that told you no in your life, right? That you actually can run a 26.2-mile marathon, right? And why are you wanting to achieve these financial goals? You want to provide for your family. You want to make a better life for yourself. That's really what you need to be thinking about. And I think it'll give you a heightened sense of who you are as an individual to help you achieve those goals better. And I walk through the Lemonade Life, great ways that you can instill purpose in yourself and also ways to conquer your goals in 5 minutes. There's a section called How to Conquer Your Goals in 5 Minutes that really teach you how to lay out your goals, lay out your perspective, and take the behavioral and proactive steps in order to achieve that in your life.
Oh man, that's amazing. And just to let everybody know, also what I'll do is I'll put this link and a link directly to, I think you sell the book on Amazon also.
Yeah, it's all over, everywhere.
And I'll put a link right on my straight to Amazon. So I'll put that up for a few days. So man, so this is amazing. So you sat with Warren Buffett, and so the main thing here is really your purpose. What's your mission? And that's amazing. Wait, before I go, someone else has a question. So, Elder again.
Elder is back.
Yes. Let me see what she said. So it was great advice in saving money for student loans. Any advice for saving money for properties and home ownership?
Absolutely. Look, the first thing I would say, look, it's very admirable and there's a lot of personal satisfaction with buying a home. I totally understand that. But also, I think you need to look where you live, right? Not everyone needs to own their home. Okay. And that may come as a surprise because I think we're always taught when we're coming up, go buy your house, right? Just go buy a house. It gives you a sense of like family, it gives you a sense of structure, foundation. But houses are expensive, right? So you really need to understand in wherever you live, how much does it cost to rent and how much does it cost to buy a home? And so that's, I think, the first thing you need to think about because it's okay if you rent a home, right? Like your home is what you make of it, right? It's you, it's your family, it's your loved ones. And you can create love in a home whether you own it or you rent it. I think that's the first thing to think about. I think secondly, if you're going to save money, look, it's putting together the savings and making sure your mortgage is not too big. A lot of people get excited when they see, oh, wow, I can only put 5% down and, I can buy a house, right? But you're still borrowing 95% of the house, for example. And if the interest rate's 3.5%, 4% or even higher, that's going to be expensive over time, right? I mean, just simple numbers, you buy $100,000 house. I'm just using round numbers. You put $5,000 down. That sounds really exciting, but you've just borrowed $95,000 at a 4 or 5% interest rate, let's say. The house is not going to cost you $100,000. It's going to be a lot more expensive, depending how long your mortgage is for. So you really need to think about that from that perspective versus, oh, I could maybe rent a place for $1,000 or $2,000 a month or whatever the cost is where you live. And so I think you need to think about that. In terms of saving for it, I think it's the same thing. When you have a goal, create a separate account. Don't mix it with your regular bank account. And, if you can put $10 in, $50 in, $1,000 in, whatever you can save, you want to put it in there. And if it's important to you, you're going to cut out everything else in your life until you meet that goal, right? You're not going to go out to dinner every night or have drinks every night. Maybe you're not doing that right now, but, in the normal course, you're not spending all the time. You're not, running up credit card debt and paying late fees and interest penalties and things like that. You're making it a commitment. I think anytime you want to save for something financially, make it the most important thing in your life, besides your loved ones, and really set those goals. I think that's going to get you over the finish line, Elda.
All right, perfect. Thank you, man. I want give them some more hearts because when you were talking about your book, it's just amazing. The Lemonade Life. So I'm definitely gonna grab that book, read through it, and hopefully I could, get you back on here and have more pointed questions directly, on the book. But that that is amazing. So before we look at the hearts. Whoa, dude, they loved your insight on your book. No,
Good.
it
I love
really
you guys.
was.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
Thank
really
you. And
was.
I'll tell you, there are, this book is for everyone, right? Like it's how to lead a better life with more purpose and more happiness. I think people, there's so many things going on in life, right? Like you got family, you got friends, you got work, you got money, you got issues, right? And it's like, how do you take time for yourself to really understand your entire life purpose? And I wrote this book, The Lemonade Life, to let people really have time to focus on themselves and really think about life and think about the world in a completely different way than what you've done before. And these are simple changes you can do. These are not complex formulas, right? This book is practical. It's not like some theoretical, like self-help book. It's detailed of like exercises, what you can do. It tells stories of greatness from all these great people, some really inspiring stories. I mean, if you're a Rocky fan, you're going to hear Sylvester Stallone and the story behind Rocky. If you love Tyler Perry like I do, you're going to hear a story, very inspirational story. I mean, he used to live in his car. I don't know if people know that. And you see how successful he is and what he's done in Atlanta, and he's always helping people. He's a true inspiration. You're going to hear stories from Warren Buffett, Jack Ma, who built Alibaba, Steve Jobs. There's so many people in this book, and a lot of entrepreneurs who are everyday people that you may not know their name, but you definitely use their products. And these are people who just change the world. And that's what this is all about. It's like, how can you create impact in the world? Do it for yourself, do it for other people. I love Tyler Perry right there. See that? And, how can you lead a better life? And so you think about the switches that are in this book. I'll give them to you right now so you know them. And when you pick up the book, you can connect with them. There's 5 switches that are going to change your life. And you can remember them with this acronym, okay? It's PRISM, PRISM. P is for perspective. R is for risk. I is for independence. S is for self-awareness. and M is for motion. If you can do those 5 things, and I go into a lot more detail in the book with a lot of great stories, your life is going to change substantially. And I would implore everyone to check it out. Check out The Lemonade Life. It's really going to resonate with you and help to really put you on good footing, particularly during this time. I think you said it right, Manny. This is at the exact time that you want to understand what it means to lead the lemonade life. And I really think it's going to change you for the better, what you do professionally, what you're meant to do. Maybe you're in the wrong job. You know, I mean, this is not a time where people should be quitting jobs necessarily, but when the economy gets, you know, in a good state again, really think about what you're supposed to be doing in life, right? And you may find out that, you know, you're supposed to start a business, or, you know what, maybe you're supposed to work for somebody else. Maybe you're supposed to change jobs or change industries, or maybe you need to stay in your same job because that's really what gives you heart. But it's really going to help set you on a course towards success and towards greatness. And that's why I wrote this book. And I can't wait for all of you to read it and listen to the audiobook.
Yeah, no, and not even just from what you're saying, like a little bit about my story when that got me like really wanted to put out content inspiring people on entrepreneurship, home ownership, if that's what they want, multifamilies and whatnot. It was I read this book called The Richest Man in Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
And the night I finished it, I don't know why, but I bought that book about 2 a.m. in the morning because I went back and checked. Mm-hmm. And that was sometime in April of, I think like April of 2016. And my credit score was in the high 500s, but that's low, right? And I told myself, I was like, I'm going to be a homeowner by the end of the year. And I didn't buy my house by the end of the year, but on December 31st, I made sure and I told my realtor, I signed the purchase and sale. Excellent. And then about 2.5 months later, I closed on the house. And for what you're saying, I agree just from what I experienced. And when I tell people always ask, you know, for advice or whatnot. And I said, a lot of it is not really what you know. It's what you believe about yourself.
Absolutely.
What you believe about yourself and your outlook on life. Regardless, it doesn't matter who the president is. It doesn't matter who you work for, and it does affect you, like your past and whatnot. But if you could just sit down, and this is what I believe, if you could just sit down, understanding what happened to you, understanding your situation, you could be like a mud lily. Within everything, you could grow up and achieve anything you want. And when I did that, I just sat back and I was like, whoa, I really did this, you know? And it was just like one night I just clicked and I just boom, and I did it. So everything you're saying with your book, I 100% agree with. And just by not knowing what I did exactly, you know.
I'll tell you what you did. I'll tell you what you did. It's called the power of visualization. Okay. And what you do, you exhibit a lot of things in the lemonade life, which is perspective and also self-awareness, right? Which are 2 of the switches. The thing about when you want to achieve greatness, and you said it perfectly, it doesn't matter what happened to you yesterday, right? In the lemonade life, so many people forget this. They focus on their situation. They're like, I hate my job. I hate my relationship. I don't like the life I'm living. But they don't actually do anything about it, right? They just think they're stuck. And they think they just make excuses for why they can't change it. Here's the thing. When you lead the lemonade life, it doesn't matter what happened to you yesterday. It doesn't matter what happened to you last week, last year. Every new day resets. It all starts over the next day. That's the thing. So if you had a bad day today or a bad day yesterday or a bad day every time for the last 10 years, tomorrow is a new day. And everyone has a shot at greatness. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you do for a living, how much money you have. Everyone has a shot at greatness. And tomorrow is a new day. So if you want to buy a house, you want to get a new job, you want to start a business, you want to better yourself in some way, you have more power than you realize to do that, right?
Yeah.
Start doing it.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So, man, so we're here with Zack Friedman, book, The Lemonade Life. But I ask one question every time I end an interview. So I have to ask you, when you eat cereal, what goes into the bowl first, milk or cereal?
That is such an easy question. There's only one answer, my friend, and the answer is cereal.
Thank you.
I don't know who puts milk in first, my friend. You have to put in cereal. Absolutely.
Yeah, but you be like, I haven't had anyone that said milk yet, but it's just like, I guess there's a whole movement of people that defend milk first, and I'm just like,
And the movement, and the movement, and the movement. Cereal first. You got to go with the cereal first. Milk
yes.
is delicious, but you got to have cereal first. I'd love to meet someone who does the milk first, though. That'd be funny. How much milk do you put in? How does that work? You just...
I don't know. I don't know. But I just want to say thank you so much. When I contacted you, it was just like, I was like, let me just try. The worst could happen is he says he's busy or no, or just doesn't respond, right? And when you got back to me, you were like, hey, let's do it Friday, like 2 days from now. I'm like, whoa. So thank you so much. And this is a recap I'm going to put out that I think everyone needs to listen to. And that I can't wait to dive into your book. Thank you for giving me your time and explaining. I think just from the amount of hearts and interaction, people gained a lot from this. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, man. This was a lot of fun. Happy to come on your show anytime. Thanks a lot to all the listeners and all the viewers. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Can't wait for you to read the book, and you can hit me up anytime on social.
All right, perfect. Yes, I will. All right. So 1 second. So that was an amazing interview. You definitely want to go out and get the Lemonade Life. I know me and my wife are looking forward to reading that. But look out for more interviews. And I just hope that this is helping you. If there's anything that you would like me, someone that you would like me to interview, or there's a certain topic you would love me to talk more about. I know someone had a question about that I couldn't get to, about how to improve your credit score and stuff like that. I'll try to find someone that specializes in that area, but contact me. Let's continue doing this. Let's grow together. We all could win. I know it's a chaotic world out there, but like the Chinese proverbs say, in the midst of chaos, there's always opportunity. And if you could just sit down, level set, and look forward, you could win too. Let's win together. Follow me. Go to my YouTube page. Subscribe. I love all of you. Thanks for your support. Talk to you soon.
Bye, guys. Bye.
And my wife with the cameo.